Hello little fish, and welcome to our Thinking Circle assembly. It feels like a little while since we had a thinking circle, and it has been. The last time we did thinking circles, we responded to the refugee crisis that we'd been learning about by raising money for Children on the Edge and the Sanctuary, which we then revisited at Christmas time, didn't we, when we did our fundraising with our lovely flight of doves. We want to reinstate our thinking circles because we really love hearing what you think about things and seeing you take action in your classrooms as a result of your learning. Our thinking circles this term have been inspired by a beautiful book that I was gifted by lovely Mrs. Whitaker, and it's called Let's Fill This World with Kindness. And what we'd like to do in this thinking circle is, just like all of our other thinking circles, is to give you something to think about as a class, to talk about, and then to feed back to the rest of the school. We've got a really simple task to set you this half term, and it all starts with that ripple effect that we talked about in assembly at the beginning of last week. I showed you, if you remember, a really lovely picture of a drop of water hitting the water and then the ripples coming out. And I challenged you all to start a ripple of kindness in your classrooms. And you came up with some really lovely ideas. We had William, who had challenged himself to smile at everybody, and we had children who talked about that impact that William's smile had had on them during the course of the week. We had other children who allowed somebody else to go in front of them in the lunch queue, or who had picked up litter on the playground. There were lots of really lovely examples of the ripples of kindness that you had started. And it was that made me think about this beautiful book again. So I'm going to read you just a short amount from the beginning of this book, and then I'm going to set you a challenge in your classrooms. Now, the bit I'm going to read to you actually is only taken from the introduction. This is a book that is all about humankind and the way in which we can make a difference to each other. And it starts by getting you to think about something. So I'm going to ask you to imagine. Imagine if an alien travelled to Earth from out of space and they turned on the news. What would they see? You might think about the occasions that you've watched Newsround, and you imagine an alien turns on the television and watches Newsround, and what sort of things might they learn? Well, they might learn that people come in different shapes and sizes, and that some of us live in strange brick boxes, and others move around in snaking lines of colourful wheeled machines. But aliens might also learn some slightly sadder stuff, like the fact that our planet is getting warmer and many species of animals are becoming extinct. They might see stories of poor people getting poorer and rich people getting richer, or countries that have fallen out with each other and are fighting one another. And at the end of the news report, there might be some slightly cheerier news, like when you see news reports about animals doing crazy things. I love watching Newsround for those bits. But having watched the news report, aliens might leave thinking that Earth is a land that kindness forgot. The good news is that we know that isn't the case. We know that we come to a school where we set out to make the world a better place to be, and you only have to spend a few minutes looking around to see kindness in action. We also know that by carrying out one simple act of kindness, maybe a smile, maybe giving up your seat for somebody else, maybe holding the door open for somebody, you are choosing to make the world a better place for people around you. We talk about this all the time, Fishbourne Primary School, and we know that when we perform an act of kindness, it has an impact on our brain. I want to read this to you. It's from the chapter that is called The Science of Kindness. Listen to this. Scientists have discovered that when we are kind, our brains release chemicals that have all sorts of wonderful effects on our bodies and our minds. These chemicals are called neurotransmitters and hormones, and they improve our mood, make us feel more connected to the people around us, and they boost our energy levels. And incredibly, they can also help us to live longer. Now, I just want to share this with you. I'm going to put this up in the corridor outside the computer room. You won't be able to read the words, but you will be able to see the fact that these arrows move between these three images. And this is what it says. So at the top it says, being kind releases clever chemicals that make us feel good. And the same chemicals are released by the people we are kind to. So we follow our arrow around. It then says, once these chemical messengers start buzzing around our bodies, we feel so great that we are likely to carry out another kind act. Which leads us to the next bit that says, whenever people receive or see kindness, the chemicals they receive can motivate them to be kind to someone else. And so the kindness loop continues. Now that's pretty inspiring, isn't it? We can all feel better as a result of being kind to other people. We're going to revisit that idea a lot straight after February half term when we do a whole school learning experience called Happy from Head to Toe. One of the things that we will talk about during that week is we can make ourselves feel happier by looking out for other people's happiness. So what's this thinking circle all about then? What are we asking you to think about in your classrooms? Well, two things really. The first thing is, how happy is your classroom as a place to be? We'd like you to talk about that as a class. How happy is your classroom? And the second thing we'd like you to do is to talk about how can you make your classroom a happier place to be? You're going to come up with one idea as a class. So you might start off with lots of ideas, and then you're going to narrow it down and you're going to decide on one thing that you all commit to as a class to make your classroom a happier place to be. And then you are all going to pledge to do that one thing. Now, if we go back to William's idea about doing a lot more smiling, that is a really simple but very effective way of making your classroom a happier place to be. We don't want to tell you what it is that you're going to do as a class because we would like you to come up with that idea yourselves. And it would be lovely to have 7 different ideas coming out of 7 different classrooms. We would like to know what you decide. So having watched this assembly today, you've got 1 week on your own to think about how happy your classroom is and how it could be happier. And then this time next Thursday, you're going to meet together as a class thinking circle and you're going to discuss your ideas and you're going to commit to one idea. And then we're going to invite 2 representatives from each classroom to come and meet with myself and Mrs. Williams to talk about what your ideas are. We're then going to, in that display that I mentioned outside the ICT suite, we're going to put up the 7 year group pledges so we can see what each year group is setting out to achieve. And then we'll reflect back in our next thinking circle about the impact that those ideas have had. I can't wait to hear about what you decide in your classroom you are going to focus on, and I really look forward to meeting with you a week on Friday to talk about the ideas that are coming out of your classrooms. Really do take time to think about it carefully, little fish, because this could make a really big difference to those people around you. Have a good day. Take care. Bye bye.